Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Giant Take Podcast. I'm Josh, and I'm joined by my friend and co host Alex. We are here to talk about this New York Giants loss against the San Francisco 49ers in a game that I just said to Alex is kind of confusing in a way that, yes, it was a 34-24 loss and just kind of another one to add to the season, the seventh loss of the year, and now a 2-7 Giants 2025 campaign filled with injuries and despair. And the thing is with this one is the Giants had something going, and they were able to score offensively. Dart looked pretty good. But I do think what ends up being the issue, Alex, and obviously a big part on the defensive side is defending the run. But then on the same way on the offensive side, the kind of going with two running backs in the backfield also seems to hurt the Giants, where Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy, Singletary getting more carries than Tracy did, but they couldn't find anything going on the ground. And it just seemed like it cut them short. And especially when you're losing wide receivers, I mean, already the wide receiver room was paper thin. Bo Collins ended up leaving this game with an injury. Graham Gano can't make a field goal. But sorry, that just came to the top of my mind. Nothing to do with the offensive game. But when you have that happening, you're going to have to rely on your running backs more. And I don't know if it's an O-line issue, but certainly the running backs didn't deliver. Alex, first of all, though, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I think, it's a disaster on all three phases. It's a disaster in pretty much everything that happens during each and every game every week. But I would say I think the offense isn't as much to blame in this one. I think really, the key to the game is definitely going to be, when people talk about it, is the fact that the Giants could not stop the run, no matter who was running the ball. Christian McCaffrey for over 100 yards, Brian Robinson Jr. right, averaging over 10 yards a carry against the Giants. Other guys getting involved as well. So it was not good enough from a team that invested so much money in free agency on the defense, but didn't seem to address the run defense aspect, where they were one of the worst in the league last year, and they are now worst in the league this year. So it's just not good enough. And, the defensive injuries, I understand, in the secondary don't help. But, where the Giants are strongest, they pounded each and every, down, running the ball with Christian McCaffrey, with Brian Robinson Jr., and they were getting 5-10 yards each carry. And that's unacceptable when you've got guys like Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Nacho, all these guys on the inside who, know how to stop the run and are just not able to do it effectively. And towards the end of the game, Josh, I do think you saw kind of a lack of effort from the front seven, in stopping the run. And that's why we saw Brian Robinson Jr. go 10 yards a carry when Christian McCaffrey kind of phased himself out of the game.
Well, I mean, and continuing to speak to the point of defense and the lack thereof, I guess, when you have 34 points against the 49ers. Alex, going into this game in the preview, we were talking about how Kyle Shanahan mentioned Brock Purdy could return and Brock Purdy might return. He's practicing this week, and we kind of had a little joke of, well, who'd you rather face, Brock Purdy or Mac Jones? And we both kind of said, yeah, they're both mediocre quarterbacks. They're fine. I wouldn't really care one or the other. Well, it ended up being Mac Jones playing, and going into this game, his touchdown to interception ratio was 8-5. I mean, that is not good. He was almost throwing about a pick, whatever it is, per game that he's played this season. Along those lines, let me actually get the amount of games he has played in. He's played in 8 games. So, yeah, a little under that. And then in this one, 19 for 24, 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, the guy looked like he was chefing up out there. And it's Mac Jones. This is someone who, it's not like he's had a reputable background before the 49ers. This guy was signed to the team as a solid backup quarterback who had to step up for an injured Brock Purdy. And yeah, he's a sufficient backup in the league for sure. But this was a project, a New England Patriots draft pick, Alex, that they decided to go away from because he didn't work. And then they got Drake May, which is working out pretty well for them. But that's besides the fact. It just shows that Mac Jones isn't the best, but the Giants defense made him look really solid. And I think that comes with again, I just, mentioned the lack of depth in the wide receiver room because of injuries. It's the same thing in the cornerback room. The secondary was weakened in this game. And you're seeing Tay Banks, you're seeing Flott. And, I like to give guys credit, but at the same time, when Corey Black is out there again, right? The guy that got called up from the practice squad who just has not looked good. And I mean, just last week against an Eagles team, allowed who was it? Jahan Dotson to have he had one catch in the game, and it was just him skying over Corey Black. It's, again, paper thin room when it comes to the quarterbacks, and they just can't cover. It's not fully on them because they're not, at the same time, they're not fully meant to play. They're not ready to play, but they are, because that's really all we have right now. That's all the Giants have. And so that's kind of where it leads. And when that happens, and you have McCaffrey running for over 100 yards, and you have Mac Jones just playing the check down game, not really finding anyone too crazy deep, but, just working the ball and working drives and getting first downs, and you don't have guys that can cover as well, it just leads to this, where they score 30-plus points. And the Giants' offense, which actually looked okay, just couldn't keep up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk quickly about the offense. I think, one of the main issues when I look at the stat sheet after the game, the one that stands out to me is Wan'Dale Robinson, 9 receptions, 46 yards. That's 5 yards a reception. The depth of target for Wan'Dale Robinson, who's our best player on offense, is not good enough, right? We need him to be slightly further down the field so that he can really make things go and use his agility, his yard after catch ability. But when he's catching the ball consistently right around the line of scrimmage, he's not getting many places, and he's just getting devoured and swallowed by these defensive linemen and linebackers. And using Wan'Dale a little bit more creatively was something that was frustrating me, watching this game, because every time he was a consistent figure, right, Josh? I mean, it was a Wan'Dale Robinson catch every other play, but at the same time, each catch was amounting to maybe 4 yards on a 3rd and 17. So I think that's something that the Giants need to focus on, is how do we improve our average depth of target? Because if you want to move the ball downfield in the NFL, you can't move it 4 yards at a time. Even Darius Slayton, the guy who's more of a deep threat, really only 12 yards a reception. He had 5 receptions, 62 yards. Theo Johnson, 3 receptions, 27 yards. That's 9 yards a catch, right? And he was making some really good plays after catching the ball. So the Giants need to focus on, I don't know whether it's an O-line issue, whether it's a Jackson Dart issue, whether it's a play calling issue. I'm going to go with what I just said at the end there. They need to figure out how to increase the depth of their target. They need to be throwing past the first down sticks. They need to be throwing down the field. And they have just not been able to do that. And that's why when they're behind in games, they just cannot catch up, or they cannot get into big leads, because they are just not able to move the ball down the field efficiently as an offense.
And I looked to the top of that list on the stat sheet, though, Alex. You mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson. How about Darius Slayton getting involved in this game? But still, Darius Slayton with the drops. I mean, it can happen. And it happened in this game. It happened repeatedly. It's happened throughout his entire career with the Giants. A lot of people complaining. I've always been a Darius Slayton defender. It is the only New York Giants jersey that I own currently, because before then, had Xavier McKinney, gone. Had Saquon Barkley, gone. So, yeah, I'm hanging on by a thread, and it's the only jersey that I have in my closet, and I refuse to get another one, because every time I seem to get that one, that player leaves. So maybe it'll be Dart down the line, but right now it's just Slayton. But again, that guy has to clean things up. He's the longest tenured Giant in that wide receiving room, but it just doesn't seem like it's working out. And I don't know how many years, Alex, until he's also gone, and it's another jersey I have to throw out that's in my closet, because it's unacceptable. And when when you're signed, when you've been on the team for this long, when you've been in the NFL for this long, you can't drop the ball. And he's dropped it a lot over his career. I feel like that's been the main, when you go over the pros and cons of Darius Slayton, it's been drops, has always been that con, but it doesn't seem like it's something that he's improved upon, that he's gotten better at. And this was just another week of that. And then, I mean, you can comment on that, but the last thing that I have, because honestly, like, again, it's just getting so repetitive now that I don't know what else to add on. We already talked about the run defense. I think that's the main proponent of this. The run defense looked terrible. The team couldn't tackle. But the last thing that I have is, and this has been a common theme as well this season, but Graham Gano. The injury, coming back, whatever. The Giants have an opportunity to make it a one-score game going into halftime. All they have to do, and I don't want to say like, all they have to do is make a field goal, but it wasn't a crazy long field goal. It's 45 yards. We saw the record getting broken yesterday. Yes, it was indoors, but if guys are drilling something from 65-yard plus, you should have a kicker that could be able to make a 45-yarder going into halftime. It should not be a problem. The conditions yesterday in East Rutherford were not that much of an issue. The winds were not that crazy. There shouldn't be any reason why he should miss that kick, and Graham Gano did. And it's really a fact of like, it's I know it's crazy to say, but it's like, every kicker in the NFL is there for a reason. There's only 32 teams. There's only 32 of them that are on a team. Yes, of course, they shift throughout the year, but you are the 1%, if not lower, that are signed to kick in the NFL. You should be able to make kicks like that. And Graham Gano didn't, and the Giants had to play catch up, and they got that field goal in their first drive to start the second half. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to say like that second, that drive to start the second half should have been a touchdown, but let's just say it was. That field goal, would have paid dividends, right? I mean, that one possession game that they made it in the second half should have well been that one possession game going into halftime. It should have been a 17-10 score line, and it wasn't. And the Giants just had to play catch up, and they unfortunately didn't make it all the way back. And it's just like, but it's every week. This guy's a storyline. And it's either because of injuries or because he can't do his job correctly. He's getting old. It's time to go. I know it doesn't even matter at this point in the season because the Giants season is done. But it's like, I don't know how many mistakes you can make. There's a certain point, Alex, where trial by error, there's so many errors that there's no, I can't do any more trials. Like, I don't understand what could be left with this guy.
Yeah, it's all the details that every other NFL team or every other NFL fan takes for granted. Us Giants fans have learned not to take for granted because they somehow mess up all these little details, whether it's special teams, whether it's timeout management, a million other things. It's just they, for some reason, cannot get it right ever. And I think that is the issue. And I do think whatever new regime comes in, it needs to be built from the bottom with the basics re-implemented. And I think that's what's been missing for a long time, whether it's like kicking not working, punting not working, timeout management, like I said before, just situational awareness, which we don't seem to have. I think that has been a consistent issue for years now, probably ever since Tom Coughlin, to be completely honest. So it's something they're going to need to focus on. And I think this regime in particular has taken for granted a lot of the very basic, simple things that you need to execute in order to win football games.
I have a question for you. Limited workload yesterday for Tracy, only 5 times running the ball. Had 3 catches. Do you think he's still injured? Like, do you think that it's like he's
It's
playing
possible
through it
he's
right
he's still
now?
ramping up. I think he's probably still ramping up. Singletary also did have the hot hand yesterday, to be fair. And
Yeah,
when I say hot hand, take that with a grain of salt.
very
But
minor
the
levels
hotter
of
hand.
warmth. Yeah,
Yeah, it was like when your stove is like really, really broken and then like it's kind of lighting and you see it
yeah.
like flickering occasionally. Like that's basically what was going on. Um, yeah, no, I think he had the hotter hand and they were kind of riding him a little bit, but yeah, I think Tracy will be more involved as time goes on. To be honest, this game was just a disaster in execution on so many different facets. So I wouldn't, take too much into it or take too much out of it, I should say, that Tracy wasn't as involved. I do think he'll be more involved as time goes on.
And Alex, sorry, I keep on like remembering things, but yesterday, after this week, with all the chatter between Dexter Lawrence and Giants legend Carl Banks,
He definitely didn't
you
shut
know,
up Carl Banks, that's for sure. Yeah, he did
no
not
one
he did not
fears
do
you.
that.
That's what Carl Banks said, and then Dexter Lawrence called him basically a fool. Well, Dexter Lawrence, 1 tackle yesterday. It was a tackle for loss, but it was still 1 tackle.
Yeah.
So
He's
he
not been
played
good enough,
terrible.
like the rest of this Giants defense. It's not been good enough. Besides Brian Burns, everyone has not been playing good enough, and I think, that's partially an effort issue, partially a scheme issue. Shane Bowen has been very bad at his job this season. It's not good enough from the defensive side of the ball where so much I'm not going to say it again after this, but so much money was invested into this team. Dexter Lawrence is making so much money. Brian Burns is making so much money, which he is actually backing up. Guys on the back end, Javon Holland got a fat contract. Paulson Adebo is getting paid good money. So I do think, those two guys obviously didn't play in this one, but this defense needs to be better for how much money is invested in it and, the type of players and what we've seen these players do in the past, right? Like we've seen some of these players have very, very productive seasons and now they're here at the Giants and it looks like a shell of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I guess the last thing that we have, NFL trade deadline, Alex. It's November 4th at 4 p.m. We're recording this Monday morning. That's tomorrow at 4. The Giants do anything?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know why they should.
They,
That
they
whole
definitely
thing of
shouldn't trade any draft capital from this year, but I mean,
no. And
we'll see.
if you plan on the Giants looking for a wide receiver, I don't know why you even would consider that. There's no reason they need one right
Josh, we have
now.
Ray McLeod. Why would we need a new receiver?
If Scadaboo was still healthy, I could understand thinking about it. After the Eagles win was, I think, the pinnacle of that. But then, since then, it's continued to trend downward. I can understand if you want to see a better sample size so Jackson Dart has weapons to see what he can do with them. The only reason would be you get someone who is, that has a contract lasting past the next 2 years and you don't give up a lot. But if you're on a guy with an expiring contract, why is he here? There's nothing that they will accomplish this year that's necessary for him to stay till the end of this season and then go into free agency and sign elsewhere. So I agree with you. You just ride out who you have now. You continue bringing up guys from the practice squad for those who are injured, and you sign the minimum vet contract free agents if you need to sign them. Besides that, there's again nothing left in this team. And I told you, Alex, last week, we're on this stretch now of the possibility of losing 5 straight games.
It's time
It
to put
was
the blindfolds on, fans.
it was the 49ers this week, which, by the way, took over MetLife Stadium yesterday, and the noise was tremendous for that side in red, not so much in blue, which was the home team, that being the Giants. But yeah, Alex, it started with the 49ers this week. It continues with the Bears, the Packers, the Lions, the Patriots on Monday Night Football, and then the Commanders is the next possible game that I think the Giants could win. But yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row of potential losses for the team that is already 2-7, by the way. The spread is favorable, I should say, for the Giants somehow. Well, not technically, but it's Chicago minus 3.5. I'm surprised it's not more, but that's what it starts at right now. And we'll see how it goes as the week goes on. We will have a preview for that game later on this week on Friday. Alex, any parting final thoughts after this 49ers loss?
This team sucks. It sucks to watch. It sucks to support. It sucks to follow, but there's no but, actually. I was going to say something positive at the end, but there's really not much. I think this was kind of the dagger game for this regime, and I would have to imagine they're gone after this year. Jackson Dart, we just got to hope he keeps looking good and keeps developing, but there's not a lot of hope and not a lot of support around him to make that happen. So it's going to be a difficult November and December, and not much of January, obviously.
Certainly not looking forward to it. Yep, that's all we got. If you listen to or watch the episode, thanks so much. You can subscribe wherever you are watching or listening to support us more. Our social media platforms are the Giant Take Pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Alex is on X at Anorian23. I'm on there at JoshSolo29. Thank you again. We'll keep doing these. They get more painful each week, but that's the life of a Giants fan. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Peace.